You know, often when I tell my story, I say I was minding my own business that day when the phone rang and there was a headhunter calling, asking about the World Vision job. And I was pretty much wrapped up in my own life, my own career, my 5 kids. One of my good friends called me, who actually was a World Vision fundraiser. He said he'd been praying and that the Lord had given them this message that somehow I was going to be the new president of World Vision, because the existing president had just announced he was leaving, and he gave the board some notice. And I said, if God wants me, He knows where to find me. And let's just leave it at that. So Bill said, I'm going to send you a book called Halftime. And he was one of your early promoters of Halftime for Bob Buford. But Bill did. About a week later, a copy of Halftime arrived at my house. And I found it very challenging and very convicting. And it really made me think, do I have a halftime? And actually the person described in that book, it felt very much like me. You know, I had been pretty much living my life, climbing the corporate ladder, raising my kids, busy, working hard to be successful as a businessman, as a father, as a husband. And I was going to church every Sunday and doing all the right things. I was on the board of the Christian school, but this book was saying maybe there's more. Do you think God gave you all those gifts for, so you could sell dishes? But you see, at the root of it was the question of who will you serve? There's a passage in Joshua that says, where Joshua is saying, this is what God is saying to the people of Israel, choose this day who you will serve. Why are we living? What are we living for? What is God's purpose in our lives? It's different for every one of us. But we have to listen and be obedient to that calling and not all of the other voices that are calling us in our lives. So when I was in this crisis of faith in 1998, I was clinging with all my might to safety and security. I wanted to hold on to my career. I'd worked 25 years to become a CEO. I grew up in a family where my father and mother did not go to high school. Financial security was deep in my core as a need. You know, I need financial security. And so the notion of giving this thing up was horrifying to me, to do this. And I looked at Lennox and my title and the prestige and my career and the big house on 5 acres. This was my security. This was my identity. And then comes this World Vision thing. Well, I obviously, kicking and screaming and whimpering a bit, did come to World Vision. It took every fiber of my will and obedience to do it. I didn't want to do it. And during that transition from Lennox, my wife said to me, we want to be where God wants us to be. It's the only safe place for us to be. So you may think, Rich, that Lennox is where it's safe, but my wife said prophetically, the only safe place is in the Lord's care and in the Lord's will. So if this is the Lord's will, we go. And we don't ask any questions. We go. And we went. And as if to put an exclamation point on that little life lesson for me, 2 weeks later, I got an email from Lou that said Lennox has filed for bankruptcy. And 2 weeks after that, I got a letter saying that my pension had been canceled. So the Lord was saying, in case you still think your security and retirement is with Lennox, your pension's gone now, so eat that. So it was just a wonderful, that's what I wanted. And I almost felt like, Scrooge in A Christmas Carol, where he got to see the future, the ghost of Christmas future. And God gave me a glimpse of what my future might have looked like at Lennox. I would have been one of those 5 CEOs that had gotten fired. I don't have any understanding that I would have been any different. And he saved me from that. And he saved me for something much more important than what I was doing. Sometimes I talk about means and ends. And I talk to young people and I say, you're all thinking about your career, what you're going to do, what your goals are. And I basically say to them, you got it all wrong. It's okay to have a career. It's okay to have a profession. But if that career or profession is a goal unto itself, an end unto itself, then you've got things backward. The only goal we should have as followers of Christ is building His kingdom. And a career can be a means to that end. Being a lawyer, being a doctor, being a businessman, a teacher, that can be a means to the end of bringing God's kingdom on earth. But if it becomes the end unto itself, we've gotten off the track. We've gotten off what God's called us to do. The key thing is that God uses the willing. You have to be willing to be used. You have to be willing to pay the price that often comes with service, because it requires sacrifice and hard work, and there can be setbacks and frustrations. And I said the only difference between the people that change the world and the people that don't is the people that change the world are willing to pay the price, and they're willing to be used by God. And if you're willing and available, I just believe that God will use you in remarkable ways.